Coronation Street's Carl Webster fears for his safety next week as returning character Fiona Morley issues a worrying threat. Carl is about to take a major risk as he reconnects with Fiona, who previously featured on screen last year. Next week's episode see Carl left fretting about how he'll make ends meet, as his uncle Kevin refuses to give him a reference so he can work at another local garage. The timing couldn't be better for Fiona to make a reappearance, offering Carl some dodgy work with the potential to make him some fast cash. Carl does try to turn the job down, but then he gets offered so much money to do it, explains Jonathan Howard, who plays the troubled character. It's a quick and easy job for him. He thinks it will give him a bit of a buffer to start his new life. But as with everything else he does, it doesn't go quite to plan. He gets himself in trouble with everything that he's ever tried to do, continues Jonathan. He always falls short of his plans to make a quick buck. And as we're going to see in these episodes, it doesn't quite go to plan. Fiona supplies Carl with a gun as part of her shocking intentions. However, in a twist that she wasn't expecting, Carl ends up pulling out the weapon when he has another furious showdown with Kevin at the garage. We know that Carl survives the drama, as he's later seen at the Chariot Square Hotel, under serious pressure when Fiona pays him another visit. Deeply unhappy about the way Carl has gone off script, Fiona gives him a 1-week deadline to do exactly as she says, otherwise his life won't be worth living. Debbie overhears these threats and steps in, demanding to know what's going on. Could she be next in Fiona's firing line? The character of Fiona was previously seen last year when she teamed up with Carl for a stolen vehicle scheme. Sarah Poyser will be reprising the role in the upcoming scenes. The Cobbles of Weatherfield had seen their fair share of secrets, betrayals, and dangerous confrontations, but nothing could prepare Carl for the nightmare that was about to unfold. For weeks, Carl had finally begun to feel as though his life was settling down. After months of personal struggles and strained relationships, he had thrown himself into work and tried to focus on building a better future. Friends noticed a change in him. He seemed calmer, more confident, and determined to leave past mistakes behind. But in Weatherfield, the past never stays buried for long. It all began on a rainy Tuesday evening. Carl was locking up for the night when he spotted a familiar figure standing across the street. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. The person stood motionless beneath a flickering streetlight, their face partially hidden by the shadows. Then they stepped forward. Carl's blood ran cold. It was someone he never expected to see again. The returnee had vanished from Weatherfield months earlier after a bitter fallout that left relationships shattered and trust destroyed. Many residents believed they would never come back. Yet here they were. The returning figure stared directly at Carl before turning and disappearing into the darkness without a word. Carl stood frozen. Why had they come back? And why were they watching him? The encounter haunted him throughout the night. He barely slept, replaying the moment over and over in his mind. By morning, he convinced himself it was merely a coincidence. Unfortunately, he couldn't have been more wrong. Over the following days, strange things began happening. Carl discovered deep scratches running along the side of his car. Important paperwork vanished from his workplace. Anonymous phone calls arrived at all hours, each ending with silence before the caller abruptly hung up. At first, he tried to brush it off. But the incidents kept escalating. One evening, Carl arrived home to find an envelope pushed beneath his front door. There was no stamp. No address. Only his name written across the front. With trembling hands, he opened it. Inside was a single photograph. A recent photograph. It showed Carl sitting alone in Roy's cafe earlier that week. Someone had been watching him. Someone had been following his every move. Fear began creeping into every aspect of his life. His friends noticed the change immediately. "You look exhausted," one concerned friend told him. Carl attempted a smile. "Just haven't been sleeping." But everyone could tell there was more to it. Eventually, he confided in a few trusted people about the photograph and the anonymous calls. Their concern quickly turned into alarm. "You need to go to the police," they urged. Carl agreed. Yet despite filing a report, there was little evidence for authorities to act upon. The mysterious harassment continued. Then came the message. Late one night, Carl's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated before opening it. His stomach dropped. The message contained only 4 chilling words. "You're running out of time." No explanation. No context. Just a threat. For the first time, Carl genuinely feared for his safety. As panic spread through his circle of friends, speculation began regarding the returnees' motives. Had they come back seeking revenge? Were they responsible for the harassment? Or was someone else manipulating events from behind the scenes? The uncertainty was unbearable. Meanwhile, the returning character seemed determined to remain mysterious. Whenever Carl attempted to confront them, they vanished before he could get answers. The tension reached breaking point when Carl received another anonymous tip. This time, it directed him to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Weatherfield. His friends begged him not to go. "It's obviously a trap," one warned. But Carl was desperate for answers. Ignoring everyone's advice, he headed to the location alone. The warehouse stood silent beneath dark storm clouds. Broken windows rattled in the wind. Every instinct told Carl to turn around. Instead, he stepped inside. The vast building echoed with eerie silence. "Damn it," he shouted. "What do you want from me?" No answer. Only the sound of dripping water somewhere in the darkness. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind him. Carl spun around. Standing in the shadows was the returning character. At last. The person who had haunted his thoughts for weeks. "What is this?" Carl demanded. "Why are you doing this?" The figure stepped closer. Their expression was unreadable. "You still don't understand, do you?" they replied quietly. Before Carl could respond, another noise echoed through the warehouse. A loud crash. Then another. Both turned toward the sound. Someone else was there. Someone neither of them expected. The returning character's face instantly changed from confidence to fear. Carl noticed immediately. "You know who that is?" he asked. The figure nodded. What happened next would change everything. A masked individual emerged from the darkness carrying a metal bar. The atmosphere became electric with danger. Suddenly, Carl realized a terrifying truth. The returnee hadn't been threatening him. They had been trying to warn him. The real danger was someone else entirely. Someone with a grudge. Someone who had spent weeks stalking both of them. The masked stranger advanced slowly. "You should have stayed away," they growled. Carl's heart hammered against his chest. The returnee stepped in front of him protectively. "This isn't what you want," they pleaded. But the masked figure wasn't listening. Years of anger and resentment had pushed them beyond reason. The confrontation exploded into chaos. Carl and the returnee desperately attempted to escape as the attacker swung the metal bar wildly. They sprinted through the warehouse while debris crashed around them. Outside, thunder cracked across the sky. Rain poured heavily. The attacker continued pursuing them relentlessly. For several terrifying minutes, it seemed impossible to escape. Then, in a dramatic twist, police sirens echoed in the distance. One of Carl's worried friends had tracked his location and alerted authorities. Blue lights illuminated the darkness. The attacker froze. Realizing the game was over, they attempted to flee. But officers quickly surrounded and arrested them. As handcuffs clicked into place, the mystery finally unraveled. The stalker had been orchestrating everything from the beginning. The phone calls. The photographs. The threatening messages. All part of a carefully planned campaign of intimidation driven by revenge. As the police led the suspect away, Carl collapsed onto a nearby bench, emotionally drained. The returning character sat beside him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Carl broke the silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" The returnee sighed. "Because I thought I could handle it myself. You nearly got both of us killed." "I know." Despite everything, Carl could see genuine regret in their eyes. For weeks, he had believed they were his enemy. In reality, they had been trying to protect him. The experience left both characters shaken. Back on the cobbles, news of the terrifying ordeal spread quickly through Weatherfield. Residents were stunned by the revelations and relieved that Carl had survived. Yet the emotional scars would not disappear overnight. The fear. The paranoia. The realization that someone had been watching him for weeks. Those memories would linger long after the danger had passed. Still, the ordeal also brought unexpected clarity. Carl learned who his true friends were. He learned the importance of asking for help. And perhaps most importantly, he discovered that appearances can be deceiving. Sometimes the person you fear most isn't the threat at all. As Carl stood on the famous cobbles days later, watching life slowly return to normal, he knew one thing for certain. Weatherfield would never be free of drama. But after surviving the most terrifying chapter of his life, he felt stronger than ever. Unfortunately, in Coronation Street, peace never lasts for long. And somewhere in the shadows, another secret was already waiting to be uncovered. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Coronation.